Hey everybody. So I've had a few people contact me over Facebook asking questions about the expanding foam I'm going to use and how in the world I go about calculating how much I need. People are having a difficult time with that. So welcome to today's boating math lesson. First, let's talk about the foam. This is 2 pound expanding foam. What that means is that the foam itself, once it's expanded to full expansion, unconstrained, which means you basically pour it in a cardboard box and let it expand on its own. The foam itself will weigh 1 square foot of this foam will weigh 2 pounds, and what that converts over to is 1 square foot of this foam will provide 75 pounds of buoyancy. Most boats have somewhere between 7 and 10 pounds of the foam in it, so you have between 700 and 1,000 pounds of buoyancy when it's all said and done. Backup buoyancy basically is what it is. The real reason to put the foam in the boat is to make it quieter and to provide some structural rigidity. Even though it's not considered a structural foam, it's like putting sound deadening in your car. Basically, it's the same principle, and provide some sound deadening on the hull. So as you're splashing through waves, it's not making an amplified wave sound in your boat, which is completely miserable. Anybody that's ever ridden in an early Bayliner knows what that's like, and it's not fun. So this basically quiet your boat down. So that's what this is. Oh, a couple of other things about this stuff. This stuff will generate 38 pounds per square inch of force if you constrain it in a cavity that doesn't have any vent holes. So in other words, when you put this stuff in your boat, you need to not only have what I'm cutting is a 2-inch hole to pour in, but you also need a vent hole on the other side of the cavity to allow it to expand without creating undue force. That is very, very important. Anybody that's ever used this stuff and not done that has probably experienced damage to the deck or to stringers or to the hull itself, because once this stuff kicks off, there's no stopping it. This stuff has destroyed aluminum cabinets. It's not messing around. So it's important to not only make sure you have your vent holes correct, but that you have the right amount going in the hole. And everybody says err on the side of caution, and I agree. If your hole calls for a full gallon of this stuff, put in 0.8 gallons. You can always fill it later. This stuff has excellent bonding to itself, so if you need to add more to the hole later, you can. To fill the cavity completely. It will bond to itself, and it will bond to all the surrounding parts without issue, as long as you do it within, I think, 24 hours. After 24 hours, the cure is complete, and this stuff is solid as a rock. Also, it is not 100% waterproof. It is a closed cell foam, and it is marine rated, but it's still foam. And no matter how you look at it, at some point, if you get this foam wet enough, long enough, it will become waterlogged, which is why you replace it in the boats, especially older boats like mine. So that's a few tips on the foam itself. So the next question is, how do we go about figuring out how much of this stuff we need in our boat? So let's look at what I've written down. This is 1/2-inch poly foam. So this is going to represent our boat. Sorry, I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm by no means a pro. So this represents the side of the boat I just repaired on mine, and those are the calculations we're going to use. So this would be the stringer that I did. These would be the outboard bulkheads, whatever they're called, that I did. These are the cavities that are all empty, and this is the square that's put in place for the captain's chair. They put in a piece of wood for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this particular section right here, and we're going to take measurements. We need a length measurement, we need a depth measurement, and we need a width measurement, which is this one. So I've taken those measurements, and this is what I ended up with. I drew a basic square because when you do cubic feet, you're doing cubes, and it's always easier to start with cubes. So picture this as being the stringer. This side would be the section of the stringer that I put in. This is the length of the bulkhead right here. That's what that is. That's the depth of the bulkhead. I'm sorry. This is the height of the stringer. So this is the 40-inch mark right here. This is the 7-inch mark right here. This is the 17-inch mark right here. So now we have our cube, and we need to figure out how many cubic feet this square is. It's real easy. But before you can do anything, you can't just take those numbers, plug them in, and do the math. You have to convert them to feet first, because you're working on cubic feet. So 40 inches is 3.33 cubic feet. 17 inches is 1.42 cubic feet. 1.42 feet. 7 inches is 0.58 feet. So 3.33 feet, 1.42 feet, 0.58 feet. So in order to get our cubic volume, we simply multiply them. 3.33 times 1.42 times 0.58 gives you 2.75 cubic feet. That is the volume of this square. Of course, our boat isn't a square, is it? It's a more of a triangle. We're only basically using half of this. So what you can picture is this being the outside of the hull, this being our stringer, and this triangle spot being the bulkhead that we put in. So our cavity is represented in here. This is the entire square that we just did the math with right here. So if you look, this is what we've omitted. So what we've done is we have omitted half of this square. We're only going to be using half of the square's volume. So 2.75 right here that we came up with here, the 2.75 cubic feet. We're only going to use half of it, so divide it by 2, and you end up with 1.375 cubic feet. That is the cubic foot rating of this triangle, which is going to be close enough for this boat. Yes, it narrows in the front. It does. There's no doubt about that. So this is not an exact representation, but it's close enough to get where we need to be. That means we're probably going to have a little bit of overflow out of our vent hole, probably have a little bit of overflow out of the injection hole, which is perfectly fine because then you can shave it down. You're going to be filling it in anyways. So now we know we have 1.375 cubic feet that we need to fill with foam. That's the first step. Next thing is we need to figure out how much of the liquid we need. We know the kit makes 5 cubic feet of foam, but we only need 1.375 cubic feet of foam. So if you take 1.375 cubic feet and divide it by 5, this number divided by that number, you end up with 0.275, or 27.5% of the kit. So the kit makes 5 cubic feet. We need 27.5% of that. Okay, great. So now we know a percentage of the kit that we need. So the next thing is to take that kit. We know the kit is half a gallon of each part. So we can take that half a gallon and multiply it times the 27.5% that we just came up with. And we know we need 0.1375 gallons of each component. Each component. Not together, each. Right? Each part. That's very important. If you try to do this with, take that number and divide it by half and get slick, you're not going to have enough foam. This is 0.1375 gallons of each part. But you can't pour that. That's a stupid number. That's what I say. So we convert it over to ounces. We use the old Google machine and put it in, and we come up with 17.6 ounces. So I'm going to round that down to 17.5 ounces is what I'll end up doing. So what you end up with is you have 17 ounces of A, 17.6 ounces of part A, 17.6 ounces of part B. You need to put them in separate cups just like this and walk into your boat. Make sure the boat is all 100% ready to go. No ifs, ands, or buts. Why do I say that? I say that because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up having a bigger container that these both go into. When you do that, you have 20 seconds to stir this stuff up. So you need to have mixing sticks in place. You need to have your gloves on. You need to have everything ready to go. Don't try to pour A into B or B into A. They both need to go in a larger cup. Because as soon as they start to mix, you're going to notice they're going to change colors from that brownish, this ugly brown. It's going to turn into an ugly orange, basically, is what it is. It's the orange color that you're familiar with the foam. And it is going to start expanding just a little bit immediately. So as soon as they go in there, start your counter. 20 seconds. No more mixing. Don't mix it any longer than 20 seconds. Or until it starts to actually go off and you start noticing a substantial amount of foam increasing in the cup itself. As soon as that happens, you know you're mixed as far as you're going to mix it, and it's time to put it in the hole. At that point, you're going to take that and you're going to pour it into the hole in one big pour. Not little pours. Do it quickly, as fast as you can. Fill it to the hole as fast as you can. Take the mixing stick that you've got, scrape the insides of your bucket, get it all in there as fast as you can. then start watching. And what you're going to notice is it's going to start expanding up towards that hole. So what I do is I'm going to put my holes at the bottom side, the deepest section of that well, and it's all going to end up in that deep section, and it's going to expand out towards the starboard side of the hole. But you want to watch that as it expands, because it's going to start expanding up towards the hole the 2-inch hole you just poured it into. When that happens, when it reaches the top of that hole, you're going to want to put something over that hole, and that will force the foam to start expanding in another direction. The hole is no longer an outlet. Once you get that foam expanding in that other direction towards your vent holes that you've drilled on the other side of the cavity, you want to start watching it and see if it's going to start coming up. And if you've done your math right and everything comes out right, you'll start seeing it in the vent hole at some point. Once you start seeing it in that vent hole, you know that everything is completely covered. You know that everything is completely filled. Then you can take your cover off of the pour hole and allow any excess to vent out. That's critical. If you don't do that, it's going to bulge the hole, or it's going to break bulkheads, or it's going to delaminate your deck, or it's going to do something terrible. Those vent holes are critical. Yes, you've drilled holes in your deck. Keep those pucks that you've drilled the hole from and refiberglass those back into the hole. Your vent holes can be just fiberglassed right over. Fill them full of thickened resin, like the filleting material I've been using. And then use the same stuff and butter up all the sides of your puck and stuff it in the hole. And then fill the hole with the same thickened resin. Stuff your puck into it and then squeegee it smooth so that it's smooth on the surface. And that's really it. I would recommend before you do any of that, before you finish your holes and close it, let this stuff sit for about 2 hours. One thing you're going to notice is that the deck gets warm. When this stuff expands, it gets hot. But it's cool stuff. So what I'm going to do is, you guys can play this over and over and to figure out exactly what you want to do. The same process works for the front of the hole and works for the back of the hole. But when I go to pour this stuff, I'll take you guys out there with me as best I can. I may have somebody else filming me, but we'll go through the process and we'll see how my math does. I haven't done this yet. I've only played with just about an ounce of this foam. It's cool stuff. It's a lot of fun to play with. Extremely expensive. But we'll go out there and we'll play with it and we'll install it. We'll foam the middle section of the bulkhead first using the mat that we've got right here. And we'll see how well we do. If you guys have questions, feel free to text me or message me over Facebook. I'll answer them as best I can. I'm kind of a newbie at this, but I've learned a lot. So feel free to ask questions. See you later.